Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of Cake with Care C and KINETIC and Mr. NEDDY NYCE tonight. How you doing? It's September 12th. Welcome. And we do have a guest joining us tonight, Aubrey Clarke. So he'll be joining us in a few to talk about an exciting book or few books that he currently has out, and something that's also in the works that will be coming out soon. So we'll get the scoop on that. In the meantime, I'm going to get into Mr. NEDDY NYCE's business a little. But before I do that, just want to remind everybody, if you want to invite anybody else to tune in, listen, direct them over to vexradio.com, and you'll see the link to listen to the show at the very top of the page. And yeah, that's the best way to invite. I also posted on my Twitter, Instagram, which is Cake with Care C. And do remember, vexradio.com, best place to listen to hip hop and R&B, old school, new school, 24/7. And you can listen to that right after this show. Don't go listening just now. So yeah, did I say it's Tuesday, September 12th? Already? It's like, yes. But we're going to actually get a blast of summer. I think starting like Thursday, Friday, it's going to feel like 30 degrees here in Toronto, Ontario. So for everybody who's complained about summer is over and summer's done, we're going to get another hit of it, I should say, another hit of heat. So
is this what they call an Indian summer?
That's what they call it. I don't know why they call it that, but I'm sure that's not politically correct anymore.
I know. I was just thinking that too.
I know, right? Because I'm like, we say all these words, these terms as children without really knowing, or young people, and then you get to an age. I mean, I saw something there, a conversation about the Redskins that is back up. So that's like, isn't that a? Okay, I don't even remember. I thought it was a baseball team, but I think there's also a school, a college that uses it.
The Redskins?
Yeah, somewhere in the States. So the debate, the conversation is, well, I don't think it ever goes away for people who it affects. And yeah, certain names.
Yeah, so the Washington Redskins.
Yes, but this, I think, was a school. I think there's a school that uses it as well. Sorry. So.
Okay.
So yeah, and they're saying that needs to be changed because it's offensive to natives, and yes. I don't know
and
which
logo. The logo too. Do you see the logo?
Exactly. So that's
even
something.
Even the Chicago Blackhawks.
See, isn't there Chicago White Sox? That's good though, right? White Sox.
No, not the White Sox. Chicago Blackhawks.
I know. Yeah, and they also have one of those heads. Oh my gosh, sorry. I sound so ignorant. One of those, yeah. But you know what I mean. I think that, yeah, as their logo or part of their logo, yeah. So I don't know, but I think there was a team that changed it. But I think, again, that was like on a college level. I'm not sure if it was any professional.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's another debate to get into, because there's so much, with these statues and what's offensive, and it is debatable because there are things that may be offensive, but they're a part of history. So it's like, do you remove parts of history, part of the story, or do you keep it so you can use that to improve the future, that type of thing. So different arguments, different ways to look at it. And so it's interesting to hear different people's take. But at the end of the day, I think if people are offended by things, I think that should be taken into consideration more than anything, because yeah. So before well, guess what? Our guest, Mr. Aubrey Clarke, is in the building.
Hello everyone. How are you today?
Live and direct on camera, and all fresh and clean.
Yes, just sorry, coming from several meetings.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Keeping your camera on?
I could turn my camera off if you like.
That's up to you. You can keep
No,
it
no.
on. You can.
There we go.
Is mine? Is mine on?
Yours
No,
is now
it's
back
dead.
on. Yes, Nettie, you turned it back on.
No, I don't know how it happened. Once Aubrey clicked in, my camera came on.
Oh, okay. Well, turn it back off then. There, it's off now.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Aubrey turned mine on. He just wants to see what I look like.
Sure, you sexy dude, you.
Oh, Lord. You guys know each other. You run in the same circles, and
Probably since he was like 14 years old.
14.
really?
Probably. Actually, you know what? It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Revival Time Tabernacle.
Yes, exactly.
That's when in those days Aubrey was preaching to me, man. You gotta come and join the church. Come and join. No, I'm not even trying to make fun. I'm just joking.
No, I mean that's.
No, Karen knows too. Back in those days, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good thing. So.
Yes.
Oh wow! But I didn't even know that. I didn't know you guys made.
Karen, how are you feeling today? I saw that you had a shower recently. Looked very nice.
Oh.
What?
Put the info on blast, eh? And a real name too.
I didn't say what it was.
What kind of shower? She's not having a shower with soap and water. Is that what you mean? Shower?
Oh
yes,
God.
yes.
Yeah.
I just saw something on social media.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I tell you, man. And it's not my social media. That's the joke. So,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
What was
the pictures were beautiful.
Threw me off with that one.
I just said the pictures were beautiful. That's all. The pictures were beautiful.
Okay.
You know what's funny? Because I know how private Kirsty is, so I never mentioned anything.
But I never said exactly what, Daddy. I don't know. I don't know why Neddy's elaborating.
Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Well,
is KINETIC on board today?
He should be joining us at some point, but he's not here yet. But he should be with us.
Okay. Did you get a chance to read through both books?
I did. I don't think I finished the second one, and then oh gosh, now I'm really blowing myself up with my laptop issues. But I did, and I remember reading the first one years ago. I know you said that you've made changes, you've adjusted. Well, you made changes, right?
Yeah, slight changes, taking out words and stuff, made it flow better for the kids. Yeah, and it was.
Well, let's just backtrack a little and tell the people what we're talking about. Aubrey Clarke is. I'm gonna let you tell them who you are, really, but he's joining us tonight as an author. He's one of his many titles, and he has written a book, a series. Could I call it a series?
Yeah, it is a series. The first.
Well, let me let you speak. You speak on it and tell us more about your series.
All right. Yes, I am an author. I started out as a spoken word artist back in the day, and I had several booklets out that I actually recently found again when I was moving. I was like, whoa, I got to republish these again. So I actually got into writing back in high school. I started writing poetry as a way to basically write essays that we had to do. And I was lazy, but I was good at rhymes. So I just wrote poems instead and got pretty good marks. And then from poetry, my aunt and uncle used to own Burke's Bookstore, which was Canada's largest Black bookstore at one point. And
where was that located? Because I read that.
It was located on St. Clair Avenue West.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Burke's Books and Picture Framing. So we used to hold a lot of events there. But I was selling books for them to the schools and the daycares. And I fell in love with the children's books. I'm just a big kid at heart. And, after after selling so many children's books and memorizing all of them, I started seeing, a lot of my friends going through a lot of trying times. I said, let me write this kid's book, and then Pinball Clemens was a big inspiration for me, as well as Dwayne Morgan. I Right. I used to do a lot of spoken word in Dwayne Morgan shows, and we were pretty good friends back then. And Dwayne won a Harry Jerome Award back in, I believe it was 1998. And I said, right, and Pinball Clemens was hosting them as well too. And as I sat there and I saw Dwayne up there, and I said, if Dwayne
can do this,
I can do it too. Yeah, exactly.
You think it's that easy?
And the funny thing is, I wrote that story back then, and I didn't put it out till 2011. You see, in the olden days, you had to go to a publisher to get your stuff out. Self-publishing wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
Right? You have to send out your scripts, and if you didn't have a proper editor and know how to put your stuff together properly, when you sent it out, a lot of times you didn't get a reply. So I had always meant to put it out myself, but as time went on, things became easier. You got a whole bunch of print-on-demand websites. You got a dozen ways to publish your own book, to register your own publishing company. Especially in Canada, we get our ISBN numbers for free. Right. And then by time I was ready to put it out, then you have things like Elance, which they now changed their name. Basically, Elance is like a Fiverr website where basically you can get anybody from around the world to illustrate your books or edit your books, or you get somebody in China or Philippines or India to do it. They're going to do it for way less. Like my first book cost me about $2,500 to illustrate. My second book cost me $300.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And that's just, one doing one in Canada, doing one. Let me backtrack again. When I was selling my poetry books, Pinball Clemens, and for you guys who don't know who Pinball Clemens is, he is probably the most famous running back in the CFL in Canada, Canadian history. Back then he was still playing football. And he came up to my table and he picked up my books and said, I'm going to support you, young man. And about, I'd say a week later, I received a phone call from Pinball Clemens, because my phone number was actually on the back of the book. And he said, how would you like to come to the Argos home opener game? I was like, whoa, Pinball's calling me? Young man, I'm like, whoa, what I mean? The most popular guy in the CFL is calling me. Right. And we became friends after that. He, with his encouragement, that was another reason why I continued with the writing. Right. Basically, the story is about a little blackbird doesn't know she could fly because her mother doesn't fly. I saw a lot of my friends, in church and different places going through that self-esteem issue, not believing they can achieve because they didn't see others like themselves or even their parents achieving, right? So they felt like giving up. And that was the gist of the story. And I started to elaborate as times went on.
Is that what made you start photography too?
We'll jump to that later.
Yeah. We'll jump to photography later. And believe it or not, photography is a hobby for me. People ask to hire me, and I actually refer them back to you and Mr. Lawrence Kerr.
Must be Lawrence Glenn getting no calls.
Well, you'd be surprised. Sometimes people do reach out and they just forget to mention who they got the number from. Sometimes. Yeah,
sometimes, but no. But honestly, I'm getting a lot of people are trying to hire me for events and different things. But for me, I just love doing it. Right. I actually got into photography. I bought my camera to videotape my events. Anytime I go to schools to speak to the children, I wanted to be able to have clear video of that. And that's why I bought my camera originally, and to take some really good pictures.
Okay.
You
do. I saw, so first of all, there is a website, Fly Little Blackbird. So if anybody wanted to check it out while we're talking, just to see what we're referring to, see what we're speaking about, and you can actually see images. I think you have all your information there too about
right.
So how did that come about? Because it's one thing to write a book and Pinball Clemens. So you have this relationship. You start this friendship with him.
Right.
And I know he's very active in different things around the city and the country. So how did that connection expose.
Right. So let me backtrack to the Burke's bookstore. So both my aunt and uncle are educators. They're both teachers, right? So, you know, as early as I can remember, all that they used to do was buy us books for Christmas. And I never understood it. I wanted toys, and they'd buy us David Suzuki and all kinds of books. And I was like, oh, man, you know, who knows that seed that they sowed way back then, you know, would eventually become, you know, turn into what it is now. So for those who don't know, I have a marketing company, a media sales and marketing company. I've been working in radio for quite some time. And now I started my own advertising agency several years ago. So I represent a lot of clients. So for me, doing this book thing was a little bit easier than, you know, I'd say most, because I am, and I also, not only that, I was a promoter. I promote events, as well as Neddy would know that we've probably done some stuff together, you know. You know, and I know a lot of people. I was like a big basketball player back in high school. I played for like the #1 high school back in the day, so a lot of people knew.
#2, Tavon. Let's get that straight.
Well, we beat you every single time. You know,
It's all about the finals. You got to go to the finals. That's it.
You know, between that, you know, and at one time I was scouting for Ford Models Canada at one time. So I was out there, you know, and I knew a lot of people, you know, and with my marketing connections, you know, putting a book out was a lot easier for me. Like you'll find that when you're doing a book, everybody will have a bunch of ideas for you and tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But if you have a vision for yourself, right, you got to stick to your vision. Like, I mean, I've had my book out for quite some time now, and I haven't done a lot of major marketing besides, you know, some social media and word of mouth and stuff. My whole thing is that once I complete my series, I'm going to do a massive media campaign.
Okay.
Right? Because, you know, as being a self-published person, you don't want to have to put out a whole bunch of money every single time, you know, for every book that you put out there, right? You can achieve the same if you're a little patient. You can sell, you know, 7-10 books at one time versus, you know, spending $100,000 to promote, you know, and effort and energy to promote one book than having to do it again for the second book. I'd rather spend the money one time and effort one time for the series, right?
Right.
For me, I think I'll get a better return on this. I do have some other books that I'm going to put out very soon. I know I didn't speak to you about this. It's an adult book called From the Heart of a Man.
Oh, okay.
And it's partially poetry and partially letting women and letting people know what men go through when they hurt. I always hear it, oh, he doesn't care. Men, you know, men show emotion a lot of times differently. When they're with their boys, they might, you know, sit around with their really close guys and talk about it, you know, and have a beer or have a drink or whatever. But to the average person, they don't realize, you know, that when men hurt, they usually hurt a lot, you know, more than, well, I don't want to say more than females because, you know, you can't put your story up against somebody else's, but men handle hurt differently, and they hurt deep, and they tend to.
Let me cut you there because I do have a question, and I know we've kind of fast forwarded. So sure. But I'm really interested in that, and I think we, especially considering there are 3 men on the line. I think KINETIC is here.
Oh, he just got here. Yeah.
You think I'm revealing something here? No, honey. So I know, so we can have a good little discussion about that. So but
we'll backtrack to
no, a question I have is because the characters in the book, right, are female, quote unquote, like the first I was interested in knowing how little boys respond to the story, and is there a difference between young boys and young girls with their self-esteem? Like, do you still notice that that girls tend to be a little less confident, bold in the young stages still, or have things changed? Just because
No, I think it's equal across the board. When I go to schools and I storytell to the kids, because I don't read from the book, I actually put it up on the screen.
Okay.
And I bring Karen Jules with me, or Asia Waith, who are both Canadian recording artists.
Right.
And it's almost like, I'd say, a Broadway play or musical, if you want to say. Like, I'm storytelling, with all the motions, articulation, and then all of a sudden Karen will walk in and start singing a song that I wrote for the book, right?
For the book, right? Yeah. Okay.
But what I see with that is I see equally from the boys and the girls, they get emotional, they get inspired.
Okay.
Yeah, the same way. I think that each kid, depending on their upbringing and depending on their parents, would depend on whether or not they're suffering from self-esteem issues. I don't think it's a male or female thing anymore, right? There's so many female positive role models out there that I think that a lot of young girls now can look to the Venus and the Serenas and, many others, right? And see those positive role models out there. So I'd say, like, I've had little boys run up to me and hug my legs after, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. And the same thing. But the interesting thing is, I call these adult books for children. Because when we go to the schools, the teachers usually leave in tears. We'd look back in the room and the teachers will be tearing up. See, a lot of people will feel like little Joy, or even Miss Blackbird. Like, I'll give you an example. Miss Blackbird started out she was flying, right? She was she was the queen of the blackbirds, the fastest flyer in the blackbird flock. And when she was flying to go and gather some fruit, there was an accident. Her wing was hit by a stone. Some boys were playing, and her wing was broken. So at that time, she was pregnant. And she was forced to land, and she landed somewhere far away from her home. She had no way of getting back to her home. So that's where she ended up, starting her family. She laid 2 eggs, but at the time only 1 hatched, and she named this baby bird Joy. So Joy grew up quickly and had big, beautiful feathers, but only one thing that bothered her, right? Her friend Motivate, a white dove who lived in the tree, could fly, and Joy just couldn't. Right? And every time Motivate would say, Joy, come fly with me and see a world full of success and beauty, she'd look at Joy, right? Joy would look at Motivate and say, don't you know blackbirds can't fly? Look at my mother, she'd cry. And how many times do we see little kids not thinking they can achieve because of where they've grown up, right?
Yep.
Right? They might have seen, their mother on welfare for a long time, father nowhere to be found. To them, that's the example of success. Not knowing that maybe before they were born, their mother was flourishing in a career, and maybe an accident caused her, to go on disability.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
or like losing a job, or
anything, any kind of setback, right?
Exactly.
Right. So, and what happens is that sometimes parents become ashamed, and they never really discuss it with their kids. They never say that this is what's happened to me, or went through. They neglect to tell them. So all the kids know is what they see.
Right. The limitations,
right? Continue on with the story as Joy would walk to Motivate's tree and gather the rotten cherries that fell underground, right? And Motivate would look down at Joy and say, Joy, why don't you fly up here and taste the cherries I eat, so juicy and sweet? And Joy would look up at Motivate and say, don't you know blackbirds can't fly? Look at my mother, she'd cry. See, now Miss Blackbird and Joy lived on the ground while Motivate lived up in the tree, right? So you could say that Miss Blackbird and Joy kind of lived in the ghetto.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? And a question could be asked is, why didn't Motivate ever, throw some of the sweet cherries down to Joy? Or why didn't Joy ever think to ask Motivate to throw down some of the sweet cherries?
Right.
Maybe Joy didn't think that she could ever have those sweet cherries, or because she couldn't fly, so she couldn't have it. And maybe Motivate at the same time, in one sense, Motivate could have been saying, I'm not going to enable Joy to stay in her condition. I'm going to keep on encouraging her until she flies up and gets to where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But because
go
ahead.
The way I took it, though, when I read it, was more that she can't really relate. And as much as you like somebody, you like your friend, and you would love your friend to be on your level, so to speak, you can't relate. You don't know what it's like to be down there. You don't know that it's not a choice, and it's not just a I mean, it is a choice. It is a choice, but it's not when it comes from, it's just a belief system that's been instilled in you. And so it's totally different. And I mean, the beautiful thing is you can have two birds that are on the ground, so to speak, that don't fly, but if you get the right motivation, you get the right words, you get the right inspiration, and that belief, your belief system changes in the possibilities, right? Then you can fly and elevate from there. But so many people, it takes certain situations and people, I guess, to be able to see it from your point of view. So Motivate, now being up there, just can't relate. And as much as she, and this is something I notice even in like my life and I've noticed it as a young adult and even older, you have a lot of people that are like, they care and they're nice people and they don't necessarily see themselves as better than you, but they just don't get it because they don't come from where you come from to really understand what it takes for you to get past your limitations to reach the level, just because they didn't have to go through that struggle. So so anyway, whatever. So that's kind of how I took it. Not so much that she didn't, and there are some people who don't want to enable, and they want to say, you know, tough love, or, you know, teach a man to fish instead of, you know, just giving him fish, that kind of thing. So I get that too. But I think in a lot of cases, people just can't relate, you know, to the struggle.
Right. But if you look at it from the example, right, Motivate was even though they were both birds, Motivate was a white bird and Joy was a blackbird. So in Joy's mind, that blackbirds and white birds were different for some reason, because she never saw another blackbird do the things that Motivate did. So let's fast forward a little bit. You see, one day Joy heard Raccoon and Skunk ranting and raving about, you know, the view that they see at the top of the hill. You know, Raccoon said, "Oh, I love to watch the kids playing sports when I go to the top of the hill." And Skunk said, "I like to see all of my friends' homes when I go to the top of the hill." Joy wanted to see so much what they were talking about, so she made her way to the hill, which looked like a gigantic mountain to a little bird that couldn't fly, right? So every time she tried to climb the mountain, she just slipped back down into the mud. And then in the background, she could hear Raccoon and Skunk laughing at her and saying, "Na na 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 na, ha ha ha, you can't fly." Right? She felt bullied at that time, right? And she felt tired to keep trying, so she wandered home. And the next day she got up and she didn't want to see or talk to anybody. So she wandered off to a far side of the park where she's never gone before. You see, sometimes in your darkest days when you feel all alone, that's right, and you feel like there's no hope, that's when hope comes. Because she made her way across the Great Divide, that deep ditch, you know, that was pitch black. All of a sudden, the sun began to come out, right? And it overshadowed the clouds. And when she looked up, she saw the most amazing thing ever. You know, it was another little blackbird, and it looked just like her. So she ran home quick as fast. She goes, "Mom, I saw it, I did. And then her mom said, "What are you talking about, Joy?" "I saw another little blackbird fly, and she looked just like me. I did. And then her mom goes, "Joy, why are you so surprised to see a blackbird fly?" And Joy looked at her mom and said, "If blackbirds fly, then how come we don't?" Then her mom started to cry and told her all about the day, you know, her wing was broken.
Right.
And every day after that, you know, at that moment, Joy felt it in her heart that she could finally do everything her friends could do and more. So every day after that, Joy flapped her wings hard.
Right.
You know, on Monday, she flapped her wings. On Tuesday, she flapped and flapped. On Wednesday, she flapped and flapped. And by Sunday, Joy flapped her wings so hard that she sounded like 1,000 bird flapping. And just as she was about to take off and fly, the wind came and knocked her back down and she bumped her head. And at that point, she just wanted to give up, but she remembered that blackbird she saw flying like herself and decided to give it one last try. And she counted 1, 2, 3, and then took off. And this time she sounded like a turbojet and she started flying, right? Then all of a sudden the animals all came out to see what the commotion was about, and they saw Joy flying, and everybody started to cheer and get excited. And then Miss Blackbird looked up and started to sing, "Fly, fly, way up high, fly, fly," right? And after that, Joy flew over to Motivate's tree to taste the sweet cherries. She flew to the top of the hill to see all of her friends' homes and the kids playing sports. And Joy flew so high that not even Motivate could keep up with her. Right. And at that point, Joy saw that other little blackbird that looked just like her. The little blackbird said, "Hi, my name is Hope." And at that point, Joy blinked her eyes in admiration, and as quickly she did that, that blackbird disappeared into the sun. And the story ends and says, "I bet you're wondering what happened to the other egg that didn't hatch." But that's the story, right? You know, so as you can see.
Sorry, go ahead. No, finish.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You go ahead, and then I'll continue.
What really inspired this then? And who did you have in mind? Was there a certain person, like certain children that you knew, your family members? Like, what really inspired you?
So, yeah, there were a lot. There was a single mother's ministry at the church that I went to.
Okay.
Right. And I had a good friend of mine that used to run it. And I knew a lot of the single mothers that were going through the struggle, you know, and their kids used to call me Uncle Aubrey. I actually used to make them sing the Uncle Aubrey song.
Oh, Lord. What do you mean, Uncle
Aubrey? I used to take them. I used to go, "Who's your favorite uncle in the whole wide world?" And they all go, "Uncle Aubrey, Uncle Aubrey." You can dance and do the twirl, and they'd all twirl around and say, "Uncle Aubrey," right? So these kids that I fell in love with, a lot of these, single moms, I said, I need to write something to encourage them, to inspire them. Like, if I continue to tell you the stories and where the story ends up, you find out in the third book, Miss Blackbird has to go to learn to fly again, has to remember who she is. It's called I Remember Me. Miss Blackbird has to remember who she was, right? Because in this, if I go on to the second book, right, it talks about Miss Blackbird, right, was sad because of her other egg that didn't hatch. And she took the egg to the top of the hill to bury it in a secret place. And that night there was a thunderstorm, and the rain was pouring down so hard, right, that it pushed the egg out of the place it was buried, and it floated over the cliff and landed in the eagle's nest. Right? So make a long story short, the second bird, Hope, was raised by eagles.
Right.
Right? And because she was raised by eagles, she was eagle-minded. Learned to fly and was a good flyer. And at one point, she found out she was adopted. And then when she found out she was adopted, because she began to question her parents why she looked so different from the rest of the family. And her parents told her that she was adopted. So she went in search of her family. And when she looked down, she saw the most amazing thing she ever saw, another little blackbird like herself. The Hope looked down and found her Joy, while Joy looked up and found her Hope.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Right? So sometimes people will count you out for dead. They'll bury you, tell you you're never going to make it. Sometimes storms will come in your life. And sometimes those things actually turn out for the good, right? Because if Hope had never been buried and never ended up in the eagle's nest, then Joy may have never learned to fly.
Right. Right.
You see,
that's what impressed me. What really impresses me about, the series, the two books that I've read so far, as you just mentioned, indicated another third book is coming out, is the level of intricacy and relatability between the book, how it's how they intertwine. Like I'm not saying that I was actually surprised, or because of the author, of course, and we all know the author, but I was actually surprised for the level of intricacy that was put into the book and the relatability between, or the cross like how did
I was
so intricately. You got
I was surprised.
Like I was like isn't this? I was like children. This is one of those books. Like there's only one other book that was kind of like that for me. And was Make Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall. It's like one of those books that the more you grow, the more you'll understand. Like I said, like kids won't catch that in-depth thing, but if they read it 5 years from now, they'll catch something. If they read it 10 years, and like all the way up to adulthood, as you continue to read the book, you'll start to grow with the book, with understanding. You'll get more and more and more out of it. I was like, there's no way kids would understand that, but it was so intelligently written that I was like, I was like, wow. Like,
you want to know, KINETIC? I'm glad that you said that. You want to know something that's amazing? When I have questions and answer periods, the younger kids will blow your mind. They will point out neglect. They will point out, they'll ask you, how come Miss Blackbird never told Joy that she could fly? I'm talking about the 4-year-olds and the 6-year-olds.
Wow, yeah.
You know, it is amazing. We underestimate children so much. And the more and more I go to schools, I realize it. And it's funny. It's usually the grade 7 and 8s that are oblivious. Right? I'll tell you, from JK up to, I'd say, grade 5 or grade 6, they're all in there and they're pointing out things that'll just blow your mind how sharp they are. And when you get to grade 7 or 8, their minds sort of shut down. And you know,
interest though, right?
No,
like
it's not even. It's interesting. No, let me tell you something, right? Because when I tell a story, they're all like, they're blown away and they come and ask me questions and whatever. But to get them to think deeper, I find that for some, there's a point that with kids that they just stop thinking deep. They just all they want to do is go, go, go. This social media generation, everything it's go, go, go. Don't think too deep, right? Because I also go to high schools and speak, right? I did a seminar at a high school, right, with older kids, even grade 12s. And man, the emails that I got after, and even from the professor there, the emails that I got, they said that their life has been changed. You know what I mean? That they won't give, because actually when I go to high schools, I get even deeper. I talk to them about their thought process, you know, how to change your speech, you know, basically, you know, that if you change what you listen to and what you look at, it'll change the way you think.
Change the way you think. Or your mental digestion, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You change the way you think, you change the way you speak. You change the way you speak, you change the way you act. You change the way you act, you change your habits. And your habits change your lifestyle, right? And that's where it starts from. So, and I start, you know, talking to them about that. I talk to them about the power of their why and finding out what their why is, that thing, right, that they can't live without, that thing that motivates them. You know, and we get into the in-depth of it. So we go through the whole book and we get into all these things that branch out, right? It's powerful to see. That's why I call these adult books for children.
Right.
Because the way I've written it to make sure that as the parents are reading it, the parents are also finding hope, believing that they can dream again. You know, like this lady at my dad's work, my dad works at the hospital, and she bought the book for her younger child, right, that's in grade 2. She said that her 16-year-old read the book and said, "Mom, I'm going to be a doctor again."
Wow.
That to me was like made it all worthwhile. If I could just touch one person, I find that this story, like KINETIC said that he was surprised how the book connected. I'm surprised how the book connects. You know, as I'm writing and whatever, I'm not this genius that plans out way ahead of time when I'm writing the story that I'm going to make joy and hope me. It just kind of just happened, you know, and that's why I believe there's a divine power, you know, sometimes when you're writing, when you're open, a divine power that helps to guide you when you're actually doing something in the interest of other people. You know, that's.
Well, actually, you know, it's really funny that you had said that about that, about the lady becoming a doctor again, because you know what? Actually, this book actually really inspired me to even think about starting to write, as in terms of, you know, I had a couple books in mind as well, and the fact remains is like if somebody I'm so connected with has wrote a book, it's not mine, are definitely not children's books, but I mean, you know, there's some books or ideas I've had bouncing around. It was like, you know, how it closely paralleled the story of, you know, as you said, joy finding hope, hope finding joy, you know, and things of that nature, as well as my friend has, has written a book, and I've seen him do it, and because he's doing it, it re-inspired me to think out and start planning to do what I need to do in terms of writing that book. So it's like, it's the same. It's a correlation of how, joy and hope and things of that nature is like, there's a direct correlation. The inspiration level of the book is amazing. Like, I was like, honestly, as I said, I was very impressed. I was like, man, Reed did this, like, wow, not as in surprised that you don't have the ability to do it.
Believe me, I'm like that all the time, KINETIC. Trust me, I feel the same way as you do. Sometimes when I go back and read my old work, I'm like, I feel like I'm dumb now compared to the stuff that I wrote before. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that it was able to inspire you that way. That's my whole thing in doing this, is that if I can touch one person, and change one life, and then that one life that's changed can change another life, and that's how we do it.
And that was my other question. So, have you gotten feedback? I know you just spoke about something, but have you seen it play out, or from the teachers? Have you heard anything?
Yeah, actually, there was this one girl. She was 4 years old at the time. I think now she's, we're in 2000. She's probably more like 9 now, or 8. When she read the story, it's funny, her mom read the story to her. And then the little girl, a 4-year-old, memorized the book. And then she looked at her mom and said, "Mom, does this mean that if I try harder, I can speak at school?" The child had selective mutism. So if you guys don't know what selective mutism is, a anxiety disorder, right? So you can speak at home to your parents, but you can't speak to anybody else. The minute you leave the house, you become mute. At school, she was completely mute. Right? Would not speak. The anxiety level was deep. Her mom thought that maybe, they say sometimes people never grow out of it. However, she said to her mom after reading this story, "Mom, if I try harder, does that mean I can do it?"
Oh, wow.
And now the little kid is a social butterfly. She's in dance, she's doing this, doing that, won't shut up. To me, that that little seed that we planted is more powerful than anything. They say that it could change a life like that, right? Go ahead.
Did you think about ever publishing online or the website these stories, these background stories? Because I find that, people love to know, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of letters, you've gotten a lot of, like I said, have you ever decided to publish that on the website, or, or
some of the testimonials from the schools and stuff is up there. The personal testimonials, I haven't published them yet. Because, first of all, I got to get permission from people to publish them, right? Right. But I mean, I could just tell the story without actually saying names or anything like that. Yes, I could do that. I'm actually going to animate the series. When the series is complete, it's going to be animated. I've got a whole thing. And then the book, I'll probably turn it into a novel later on and expand more on the characters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I have my whole mindset is to really take this to a whole different level. You
want to franchise it, basically, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm actually looking at getting some mascots done so other people can go to schools and tell the story as well.
That's crazy. No, and I was thinking about that because when you were speaking about it, you kind of went into, I don't know, I wouldn't say character, but you almost went into
I know, I stopped myself from doing it.
Mode, like
I know, I stopped myself from doing it because I would have told the whole story with all the animated voice and whatever. And I said, okay, let me pull back a little bit. Actually,
at least you love it. You love what you do.
Yeah.
I know. No, it's amazing. And I think that makes a huge difference. Like you said, instead of sitting there and reading it, which I mean, I remember as a child, I loved that too. Like I loved sitting, they had us sitting on the carpet,
right?
Like and then or fold it, or what is it? Yeah.
And in each grade level, I tell the story differently. Like with the little kids, I spin around and I drop on the ground. With the older kids, I use more facial expressions and voice dynamics.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, so right. That's why I like to, when I go to schools, I break it up by grades. I'll do like 4 presentations, a half an hour each, or
Wow.
5 sometimes and stuff. Right, right. So that I can actually ask different questions and, you know, present differently. Right.
Now, is your book available? First of all, they still have libraries in the schools, right?
Yes, they're in some of the school libraries. They're in the Toronto Public Library. I think the Toronto Public Library actually has it on Kindle. They may have it under Kindle.
Okay.
And stuff. And then in the Peel Library, I think they told me they were going to purchase it as well too.
Okay.
Now it's not in Chapters or Indigo right now. I purposely pulled it out.
Mm-hmm.
For me to put it in Chapters and Indigo, I have to sell it at the hardcover for like $29 a book, just like they sell the other hardcovers for. And I refuse to make my book not be affordable.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want everybody to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why. And honestly, Chapters and Indigo, they don't market your book for you. You actually have to pay for a shelf space if you want it to be in a prominent area. Okay. Otherwise, it just sits on the shelf with it, and people actually have to come and ask for it there, right? So to me, now that you can get it on print on demand on Amazon, and you can also go into a local store. I have it in a couple of local stores. You know, people can go pick it up if they order it, right? So to me, that's a lot more effective than it sitting on a shelf collecting dust, you know, and the big guys.
So before we leave this book, so how can people get their own copy?
Yeah, they can go to flylittleblackbird.com, or they can go to amazon.com or amazon.ca and punch in Fly Little Blackbird Fly, or It's Not Over Until It's Over, Fly Little Blackbird Volume 2. And just to let you know, if you punch in aubreyclarke.com, it'll also go to the Fly Little Blackbird site. So that's Clarke with an E.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so how many, I mean, you said that this is just kind of evolving the book series. But as I said, the level of interest that's been put into the craftsmanship of the book and the design of the book. Is there a capped number of books, or is this just gonna?
Right now in my head, there's 7 books, right? 7 or 8, actually 8 books, right? Like I already wrote the whole story in my head. I just haven't put it all on paper yet, right? So yeah, so I think there's probably another 6 books to come out, and who knows, maybe it can go on, it can extend from there later. I don't want to drag it on too long, you know, but honestly, because the second book actually ends with basically what happens is that the family is reunited, Hope and Joy meet, Miss Blackbird and the Eagles, they all meet, and then the story ends with the hawk capturing Joy and Hope in its talons, and, you know, and Motivate flying back to tell Miss Blackbird that her daughter has been caught by the hawk in the, you know, so wow. Right, and that's how it ends. So each book ends with a cliffhanger.
Okay.
And this is why, right? And then Miss Blackbird in the third book now has to remember who she was, because she needs to learn to fly again to go and save her daughters. Now she's gonna fly back to Scarborough to go and find her husband, who is the king of the Blackbirds. You're going to go and try and help, right? Rescue the daughters. So there's all this intricacy, you know, in it, and so many things that's going to happen along the way. So many other issues that people face in life that will be dealt with, you know, like disabilities and biases and, you know, all kinds of things they'll be touching on. Maybe I may put an animal in there that has lupus or sickle cell or something like that, you know, like to me, I need this to really empower everybody, and, you know, with a full understanding of what people go through.
Right.
Well, it does, but you know what though, that's the thing that I wanted to actually touch on with you in terms of, you know what, again, the writing style, like, you know, there's a lot of narratives or the Black agenda presented very, very smartly or very intelligently. Like, you know, it's like the Black agenda is there. But everybody can relate to it. Like, you know, you have the, you know, the Derv being white, you know, right. The Blackbird being a black child, stuff of that nature. And, you know, it was this book meant to specifically promote the Black agenda and you know, like, or not, I wouldn't say promote the Black agenda, but promote you know, the difference between Black and white, or, you know, but cleverly disguised as, you know, something that everybody can reach? Or what, did it just kind of evolve that way?
No, the book was kind of written for it was written in two ways, right? It was written so that, yes, I wanted to address the issues that Black kids are going through, right? But I also wanted to, I made it a Blackbird, right? You notice that a Blackbird is a real type of bird, and it's right, Blackbird right, as in the full word. If I had said black space and bird, then I'd be referring to the color of the bird. You understand what I mean? Because I said Blackbird, like I noticed that when kids of other ethnicities read it, they don't even realize the difference between, they don't even see that motivates white.
Okay.
They don't see it. Whereas when kids that are Black read it, they see themselves as that Blackbird.
Okay.
And then from another perspective, from a Christian perspective, right? The dove represents the Holy Spirit, right? And motivate,
I never even thought of it. Wow.
Right? And motivate, right? That's why I say the Holy Spirit motivates us and guides us and directs us. And if you read it in a different tonality, motivate could saying, joy, come and fly with me and see a world full of success and beauty. You know what I mean? Like the Holy Spirit is always there speaking to your heart, trying to encourage you to do stuff, but sometimes you don't see it, right? So it's written from multiple perspectives. So it can be taken in a natural way, it could be taken in a spiritual way, it could be taken in the Black and white way, you know? So it was written with all of that in mind.
Wow.
That's, yeah, and it's
to be able to reach a mass market. You know, one thing, right? As a Christian, there's one thing that I always remembered, right? Jesus spoke to people in parables.
Yeah.
He never preached to them like you hear most people preaching. He always told a story, right? A story that people could understand in order to relate to them. And I think a lot of times we try to go too deep over people's heads. If we told more stories, you know, we probably communicate a lot better with each other and understand each other a lot more. You know, if a story is a good story, no matter what nationality you are or who you are, you understand the story and catch. You ever see on social media, there's a lot of those videos made by Chinese about caring for one another and helping one another. How when
yeah.
Right? Everybody can relate to that. Even though it's all Asian people in the video, no matter what nationality, you can relate to the story. Right? And you don't even see that as Asian people. All you're seeing, it's a story.
No, it's true. There's one with, I think, sisters, and yo, that thing had me in tears. I don't know if it's because I'm just a little more sensitive right now, but that thing had me in tears a few months ago. Like the sisters, they didn't really get along, and then one had cancer, and then and it was an Asian family, and it was, I don't know if it was Instagram, but whatever, on social media. And I don't even know if they spoke, and if they, you know, but you could see what was going on, and like you said, it crosses the lines of color, race, nationality, and and a lot of things. I think it takes the, you know, when we speak from our personal experience or our opinion, you know what I mean? People tend to put that as, okay, that's your opinion, or that's how you see things. And, you know, that's not necessarily how I would, you know what I mean? But like you said, when it's put as a story, it's easier for other people to take it in without bias, without judgment, you know what I mean? So
I'll give you a good example. KINETIC and I have known each other for years.
Okay, who you know longer, NEDDY or KINETIC? Which one now?
I've known NEDDY longer. I know NEDDY. I've known NEDDY and you longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I've known NEDDY, and then you, and then KINETIC.
Oh, wow. Okay, even though I'm not that.
Ask him who you know better now.
I'm honored.
Oh, Lord.
my point is that KINETIC and I have known each other for years, and we were going to Jamaica to a mutual friend's wedding, And
oh, yeah, recently, right.
Yeah, and I went to go pick up something from him, and we sat in the car and talked for maybe an hour or something, just telling each other stories.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I connected to him just through those stories in a way that we've never connected before, that I finally understood who he was as a person.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And even though we talk, multiple times and we've seen each other for years and we've been cool for years, we never really sat down and told each other stories. You know,
yeah, you found as a player in the club. I get it.
Yeah, stories are powerful.
But that's exactly what it was. Like as Bree mentioned, right? We connected a couple times, but it was longer than that, Bree. I think we sat for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we sat
in front of my building. Yeah, it was like we were just sitting in the car and then we're just building, because basically Bree was he's a mate. Let me explain before I'm gonna segue out of something, and I want to promote him. Travel wingman. I'm just gonna let you all know this guy made my life so incredibly easy. I've been with so many different people, but this guy, it's like I'm so impressed about how organized he is. How how the guy is organized to a T, and he makes your life easy. Like he totally took care of everything. Service is not just to organize the trip. So y'all need to get with Bree.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
I was impressed with the professionalism and just how, there were some hiccups on the way on my behalf and through communication, but the fact remains is everything was handled flawlessly.
Yeah, man.
It was everything on the other side of it. Even huh? Sorry?
Was that Neddy that said something?
No. That's
no.
I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, Neddy's going.
Yeah. No, he's there, but he has it on mute. So I don't know
okay. Yeah. No, it was like
they're listening to you guys. It's just a great conversation. I can't even. What's that?
Yeah.
I can't even add in. I was just there listening to you guys. So Aubrey was on an hour chat. So I said, let me just sit back and listen to the conversation.
It's so crazy, but so now you did pique our interest a little earlier when you mentioned your new book that you have in the works for adults.
Yeah,
and more specifically dealing with or coming from the male point of view. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Right. So like I was mentioning that guys hurt, and when guys hurt, they tend to hurt deeply. In a deep way where they internalize things. And I don't think that, like I've heard from a lot of my female friends, oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what I do. He's just out there. He's a player. He's this, he's that. But they don't understand, that sometimes just the communication breakdown between, the male and female causes him to withdraw. Or maybe sometimes, I'm not saying it's all females, but sometimes the females nagging him all the time or doubting him. One thing men hate is when they're being honest and sincere, is to be doubted and accused of things.
Especially men.
Yeah, if it's done to them over and over enough, they withdraw within themselves, and then they get this don't care attitude because of hurt, right? And then the females turn around and think, oh, all these guys are dogs. Guys don't really care. They don't, they can just do whatever and walk away like it's nothing and start a new relationship or whatever. But they don't realize, the pain that men go through. When a man loses his mother that he was close to, the pain that he endures. Like I had a friend who, a very popular person that a lot of people know, that was suicidal when he lost his mother for a year and a half, and a lot of people didn't know. And this person,
I lost my mother. I know what that's about.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like men hurt in a deep way. And I kind of want, so this book will be some of my poetry and some motivational stuff, but it'll also be quotes and excerpts from different guys around as well, what they go through in poems that they've written or just things that they've written or their stories as well. Right. I think it'll be a good read for other men that aren't able to express the way they feel, to see that they're not alone in it. And it'll also be a good book for women to understand the heart of a man a little more.
Makes me want to holler. I'm going to throw that book out there again, as you say that, by Nathan McCall.
Yeah.
It's my Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but
I
that's
haven't
one of
read
those
it, but
books
I've heard
that,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a national bestseller. It's like I have three books that I hold very close. But Nathan Makes Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall, as I said, is one of those books that it makes you understand why Black men are the way they are. It's like the real, if women want to understand Black men, let them read that book. If you want to understand why you are as a Black man, read that book. And every time you read that book, as you grow, like I read that book like every like 5 times. Like I've read it about 5 times, and I read it like every 2-3 years, because as you gain, more understanding, when you read it again, you like it opens up a new level. Just kind of like your book, read, going back to that. But both of them, it's kind of like on that level. Whereas, you know what, every time you read it, you're like, now I get that. Like, you may have read something, you missed it,
Right.
but as you grow and you mature, or you gain certain experiences, then it's kind of like you've been taught that lesson. Now the eye opener has been revealed because of it. You might miss it because you might miss it because you haven't experienced that level. Just like you said, sometimes, as eight, the teenagers or whatever may shut down, or what you say, the older grades, the grade 8s may shut down. They don't think as deeply, but you may have missed it. But as you grow, as you mature, as you gain experience, it's one of those things where now it's been revealed to you, right? And you see it. So I strongly recommend that book.
Yeah. I hear that 100%. So
what do you okay, as men, I have 3 of you on the line, so we need to ask, what do you think is the biggest misconception then when it comes to men, and specifically Black men, and feelings, I guess? Or character, or just how you are as people. I know for me as a woman, and I'll speak on that, but I'll let you guys. Or you know what? No, I'll speak on mine. I find that, and I'll give you a minute to think about that. That is the mad Black woman image, this stereotype, and I think it's we get that from men, women of other nationalities, cultures. I find maybe some of our own, you know what I mean, from just being brainwashed, whatever, into thinking this is who we are, and I'm not like them. The majority of Black women are like that, but I'm not. They kind of, take on that.
You could actually open up a whole 2-hour conversation on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but that's one of the most offensive stereotypes, and I see it constantly. And it's done even in a way where people think they are complimenting you, saying, "Ooh, I wish I had the strength of Black women," or "I wish I was as strong as," or "You guys are such strong women." And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by strong? And how, as a Black woman, am I automatically any different than any other woman as far as how I feel, how I deal with situations?
You know what the problem is, Karen? So many Black women refer to themselves, "I'm a strong, independent Black woman."
But
They put it out there.
No, do you really hear that, or is that just a
I've heard it and I've seen it. I've seen it posted on social media several times.
I hear it all the time.
All the time. I'm a strong.
And guess what? We are, though. Not kidding.
No, but what makes you strong?
You know what? But there's a difference between being a strong. First of all, there is a difference between being a strong Black woman and an angry Black woman. And I think
angry Black woman. You took the words out of my mouth.
Right. And I think the angry part, and when we are a little more confident or straight up, or we want to be very clear in every situation that we're in, and we put our likes, dislikes, or needs, whatever situation. It can apply if you're checking into a hotel, or you're complaining about a meal at a restaurant, or you are in a relationship, or you're at your workplace and you're addressing an issue. And there are people that do it, and it's like, okay, we respect her, she's confident, she's strong, she's bold. But you put the black skin on and automatically, oh, here she comes, mad black woman. All right, do the neck thing. Okay. Ooh. You know what I mean? And
well, you know what? I'm gonna say something that's very controversial, and based on my experience, right? And it goes to complement what Kirsty is saying. But what I have experienced in my life, I can't speak for anybody else. But what I've experienced is that all women are actually identically alike. Whether you date a black woman who's angry, whether you date a white woman that's angry, a Filipino woman or Asian woman or thing, it all depends on it comes down to three things. It comes down to level of education.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down, like, they all deal with it the same way. It's just how they deal with it at certain times. Like as black, quote unquote, I hate, like I said, I hate the color term black, but just for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but that's what it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all black people walk around with post-traumatic stress. Okay.
Mm.
We don't, like, it's not acceptable for us to, go talk to somebody like a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right?
Right.
Because we have that label of being strong, and you know what I mean, and but the thing is, we all, every day that we walk around, like, from the day you're subjected, going back to Bree's book, or Aubrey Clarke's book, sorry. And when I say Bree, is just a term of endearment that's each other, but so forgive me if in this manner, but it's Aubrey Clarke's book. What it comes down to is that we are subjected to a certain mentality that's not equal or on even playing ground with the rest of society. So if if you walk around in our shoes, you would be angry too.
Mm-hmm.
The fact remains is that we're forced to be, or pardon me, I shouldn't say you would be angry. You should be angry if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep on filling up a cup, eventually it floods over. And I know we've been born with a full cup. Born, you don't have the luxury of being filled up. You're already filled. So we're flowing over, and we're used to being over, like flowing over in that we're subjected to from day to day, like that. The Blackbird was subjected to, because the mother wouldn't fly, even though the mother didn't tell her to fly. So the ability to, she had to develop that she couldn't fly. And it's the same thing, is that we're subjected to the anger from the day we're born. And we're not allowed to talk to people, and we're limited to our old devices. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm glad what you're saying, Kine. It's a culture thing, right? Like you're saying, it's how your culture lies, right? Like they talk about, the way you're raised, makes a big difference. If your mom was an angry person, or there was a lot of bitterness in the house and stuff, like your dad treated you bad or whatever, that anger builds up from a young age, right? And I think that's with a lot of different cultures. It's just that our culture expresses ourselves in a certain way a lot of the times, right? You'll find a lot of black people that don't express themselves because they're cultured differently. They grew up in different communities, right? But the black people who grew up in a lot of times West Indian or in America in the ghettos or certain thing, they have this fighter mentality. They feel like they've always had to fight to get ahead. So, they turn around and they fight the wrong people, right? They fight each other. Where the people you should be loving are the people that you're fighting.
I think there's a bit of that. And I think in everyday life in the world, like right now, okay, so culture, like I'm born here, raised in Toronto. So what culture? You know what I mean? Even though, yes, I'm in a home, like I was raised by a Jamaican mother, a very strong woman, but sweet too. And but I was also, I went to school with other people of other cultures, nationalities. I was schooled, and when sometimes I speak to my sister who's in early childhood education, and we speak about how much time we spend in the school system versus at home. So what culture are we raised in? You know what I mean? We all started, and when you think about it, we were, as children, I think we were all kind of leveled, like whether it was like the Asian, Indian, white, black, we were all kind of, we had the same general temperament. We were like kids.
I'm glad you bring that
up. We had our own problems, but I think when you start aging and you're walking in this world, and there are things that I'm going to walk into a situation and be greeted and different and approached differently than someone else who looks different. And that's what will sometimes bring out a different response than someone who has lived, who looks different. We may have had the same general upbringing and the same happy-go-lucky outlook on life, but then we walk into a situation and I'm treated a lot different, and I'm not treated as nice, and so my reaction eventually, because I'm not gonna, you might smile and try to sup it up for a minute or two or three, but then when you're like, okay, hold up, what's really going on here? And I've been in so many situations. Like recently, I was at a retail store, something happened, and I said, and I stood there and I shook my head and I laughed, and even the people that were a part of that transaction, they saw, and I said, that's a certain type of privilege right there, because if that was me in that situation, I would have never got away with what just happened. How it played out. And these are and then when it was my turn, and what I was asking for was so simple, and I was given the runaround, and I had to stand there and wait. And I was like, my goodness, like, so it's so those instances and those situations are sometimes what brings out, like the frustration. You know what I mean?
But I think it goes beyond that as well. It's not just those certain situations. I think genetically, Black people are just wired a little bit differently than the rest of the world.
I don't.
The reason why
I believe that.
No, the reason why I say that is the reason why I say that is because we're a dominant force, a dominant race in terms of like physical attributes with us, our makeup, everything, our skin. We're protected from the sun. There's a lot of different things that go on. And if every single solitary Black person, even though it might not surface, there's a little bit of that fight or flight in them that will.
But that's everybody.
In certain situations.
But
listen to me. Why?
Because I have a lot of friends from different parts of Africa that never experienced slavery, that never experienced the discrimination and they cannot relate to the discrimination that we talk about many times. I have friends from Africa that tell me that.
I'm not talking about the discrimination part of it.
No, but I'm talking about their attitude is different. The way they approach, the way they treat you is different. The way they deal with confrontation is different. You know what I mean? Because that's why I can't necessarily say it's a genetic thing and not a culture thing.
I think we have. Okay, for example, I want to relate it to sports and stuff like that. A good portion of sports are dominated by Black people. We just have something genetically inside of us that push us forward, and that genetics of our body, like our athletic ability, our makeup of our hips being wider, everything combined with our mental makes us different. And I think every single solitary person has a bit of it in them, and then certain situations will bring it out.
But
so I don't want to say that it's a culture.
I know a lot of white girls that hang around Black people that are more angry than the Black women.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not just
exactly
talking about
what your stimulus is. It's what you got to remember something. It's what the stimulus is. It's not about, it's not a genetic thing. What it comes down to is that, yes, we are naturally aggressive is what I think Neddy's trying to say, is we have a naturally aggressiveness to us, but that's culturally embedded.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. Sorry, we've always.
I think that
you got to remember something.
I don't know if I can say that the aggressiveness is part of culture or if it's just part of Black people in general. I don't think it's something that's cultural.
Something. We all feel the same. We just express. We all
What's
feel
that?
the same. We just express different. We all feel the same. What?
If you have somebody like a Black person and they're born in a different culture, are you telling me that all of a sudden they're stripped of their fight or flight inside of them? No.
Everybody has fight or flight.
No, I'm not saying this specifically. The fight or flight. There's something genetically that's inside of Black people.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. Then
I don't agree.
I don't think it has to do with that. To do with the response, how people respond. I see people who are privileged. Like I used to work with a young woman who was very young. Like I mean, she was like very early 20s, and she came from a home where she was very privileged, very like wealthy. And she also was surrounded by like her family-owned businesses, and so they walked through the world with this, but not this sense. She was also taught to work, like she was still working and still, you know, and she was very involved in sports, so she's, you know, well-rounded. So I'm not trying to paint a picture of this wealthy, like, you know, little rich girl or anything like that. But the confidence in this chick, and then she was exposed, like she had a lot of wisdom, it sounded like, and a lot of exposure to older people. So when she spoke, she almost was like, she seemed a lot older than her age. She was very confident. There was just something about her, and I think that now is, you could compare her to a lot of other people in their early 20s, and so again, that's a nurture thing. That's not nature. You know, this whole idea of, was she born that way because she's white? Like, you know what I mean? Like, no.
You see, what are you gonna remember though? What you gotta remember though is that we all, doesn't matter what, you know, age, what you know, nationality, or what, you know, I guess gender you are, we all have the same feelings. We just interact differently and express them differently. But again, I'll go back to it. It's about, you know, class, education, and you know what? We all get angry at some point. But it all depends on what stimulus you've been brought up with. If you've seen that, you know what, it's okay to somebody. If you've been raised with that mentality, then it comes natural to you. Whereas me, I've never been exposed to that. I'd be like, oh my God, but we still all get angry.
Because I'll tell you, you're right. You ever? Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
No, I just wanted to say.
We all hurt. Oh.
No, I just wanted to say, sorry, is that of course we all do, but I think what I was referring to is what when I speak up for myself, and what may be seen as confidence in one person, self-esteem in another person, comes off as anger from me.
That's the way you articulate yourself.
That's media portrayal.
No, it's true, and this is where a lot of people get their idea of people before they even meet, and so some people are even afraid of. Some people will also even be nervous to approach or afraid of a Black woman, because this is what they've been taught. This is how we are. So, you got to be careful with her. You don't want to get. You don't want to get beat down or anything like that.
Okay, let me break it down. Let me break this down. It's like this, right? We all come from different cultures, different walks, different places, right? If you know, one word to one culture is something aggressive, and to another culture is just part of the culture, right? And a lot of times we do stereotype, you know, according to the culture. But back to what Neddy was saying about it's in us. The reason you ever get an Italian woman angry or a Spanish woman angry, and see how aggressive they are, right?
Yeah, and then the joke is with that. Let me tell you, the joke is with that. You see that, and you see posts and stuff referring to that, and ooh, it's so sexy. Ooh, get the Latin, the Latin.
You know why? Because
no. Think about it. It's called spicy.
Yeah,
the Latin, like spicy Latin girl, whatever. And then, but to us, it's like, yeah, mad black woman will cut your throat. Like, hello.
But again, that's media portrayal.
After you argue with the Spanish girl, you're gonna go make love, right? But after you finish arguing with the black girl kicks you out, right? So,
but again, no, but that's not true. That's not true.
But that's, you know what? Either. I'll tell you. But a lot of it has to do with the response from the other person. So if a man is going to look at you and say, yo, you just crazy, I'm out, like, or you know what I mean, or just kind of look at you like you're a psycho or whatever the case is, which has never happened to me, by the way. But with no, for real. but
on a side note, basically, that's what Currency is saying.
Right? That sounded a little too personal. No, and it's not the truth. I can give you references. Come on, people. But with someone else now, they're going to approach it different and say, oh, honey, you're just mad. You're so cute when you're mad and blah, blah, and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen with black women, but I'm just saying, anyway, you know what? Going back to the whole stereotype, and
it's media portrayal.
Exactly, because I've talked to my daughter. You gotta remember, I've talked to my daughter about when she watched cartoons and then into sitcoms before she stopped watching TV all of a sudden. But when she used to, and on every little kiddie sitcom show, like when they're in middle school and high school, you have the same characters played by different actors. And you always got the nerd, the bully, the snob, the dumb girl. You know what I mean? And you always have these certain characters. And that was stuff I was exposed to. And so we're, again, like you said, media, TV, they shape how we see the world. And so we'll even look at someone who maybe carries an extra weight and we automatically say lazy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? They're just things that we think of. So it's I think it's, anyway, but that was my example of one of the big misunderstandings of black women. But with you now, with you men, and more specifically Aubrey too, when you were writing or putting this book together,
right.
What is it you're addressing, and what is it you guys feel that maybe as black men it's taken the wrong way?
Well, it's kind of what I'm addressing. Let's put it this way. I'm not just addressing any one topic. I want women to see all black men from all different walks of life and how they think. Like KINETIC and I are tight. We think differently about certain things, but we think the same about other things. And NEDDY and I think differently about something, same about others, right? So we all are different. And you can't put us all in one, in one basket. And I think that's what happens a lot of times. I'll give you an example. One of the last girls I was dating seriously, I used to spend every weekend with her, all weekend long, right? Then I talked to her in the daytime, and then sometimes in the night I'll talk to her for maybe an hour, and that's it. Then I have to make sure I get to my work, right? She'd complain and say, I don't really care about her because all the other guys that she dated couldn't get enough of talking to her all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So to her, I didn't really care because all the other guys did things a certain way. When, I probably cared more than anybody that she's ever met. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I need to build for a future. I need to have this in order, that in order, and I need to keep it going. I can't be out dinner every night, running around the place every night because that's irresponsible, right? You got things to do, right? But you can't put everybody in the same category, and women tend to do because they experience one thing with one person, they think the other person is the same way. And I need to get them to understand that men are so different across the spectrum. They hurt differently, and because when one guy hurts, they may lash out at you and cuss you, and the other guy may just go silent, or the other guy might just not say anything. I mean, or just continue to be nice to you regardless, right? But nevertheless, they're still hurting. Everybody reacts to hurt differently, right? And I just I like women to understand us a little better, so that instead of The worst thing I always say is, if you don't understand, ask me. Don't jump to conclusions.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner.
Right? I say, ask me what it is. Like, you know, and it's sometimes men can actually not be thinking of, they could be sitting there silent and not be thinking about anything. Just clear their mind and just chill it. And when you tell
we
them,
have that gene. Women don't have that gene.
Right.
We have nothing gene. Women
Right.
don't have the nothing gene.
Right.
They can't compute it. They don't understand that.
They don't understand the nothing. You're right, 100%. So when we're actually thinking about nothing, they think something is wrong or something's up, and they start going in the world of their own and calling their girlfriends to find out, what do you think it is, and you know, throwing things all out. You know, unfortunately.
That's what it is. You know, just from that understanding, exactly what Bria said, and I've said this so many times. It's funny that you mentioned that there, but we have a nothing gene. We have that ability where we can just sit and do nothing. We could look at the end. We won't want to speak. We just want to do nothing. Whereas women think 20 million things in 1 minute.
Yeah, it's true.
You're thinking, oh, my nails ain't done. Oh, what am I gonna cook tomorrow? Oh, you know what? I gotta do laundry. Oh, you know what? I gotta pick up the kids and blah 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 blah. I gotta go buy this. Oh, you know what? Next month is such and such's birthday. It's coming up, so I gotta go get a present. You know. Whereas we just like are in the moment. We have the present nothing gene. We can be in the moment, not understand that. I've never seen a woman yet that has the nothing gene that can sit there in the present and do nothing.
Nothing.
If they sit there for 1 minute, they get up and they have to go do something, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's back, like if they have to do something and they have to think. Yes or no, Kay?
Yeah, I'm trying to, I was about to jump in and say I don't think so, because I cannot, but I think you might be right.
No, but if you're sitting down doing nothing, you're thinking 20 million things. Whereas we're just sitting in the moment, we're just basking in the presence.
Yep, just there, yeah.
I can zone out sometimes, but not really, but somebody has to.
No. But you guys can zone out for long periods of time.
Somebody has to think then. Imagine we were both like this.
But I'm saying that you know what? No, but here's we say nothing, automatically something is wrong, because that is 9 times out of 10 what a woman's response is. You ask her what's wrong, nothing, and then she sits there and says nothing, but everything is wrong. And then 5 minutes later, you find yourself in a damn argument. Whereas a man, you ask him what's wrong, there's nothing. It's just because he's, 9 times out of 10, he's just sitting there, cuddled up with you, chilling. He could be there in the dark and do absolutely nothing but just chill with you, just feel the presence of the moment.
It's only because
sorry?
When a woman says nothing, she wants you to figure it out for yourself. What's the problem?
Yeah, or ask the question or that she can go in on you. Exactly. Whereas men, when we're in the basket in the presence, we just want to chill. We're in the presence with you. We're enjoying the moment. We're just cuddled up with you, or we're watching a TV, or we're invested in that moment. As soon as and it's like we're enjoying that individual moment, and we're thinking about what's coming next. We're like, yo, I'm gonna put this down on her tonight, man. Like, yo, I'm enjoying this moment. She earned this sex tonight.
Oh.
Whereas you guys start automatically thinking, you automatically start thinking, oh, he's silent. What did I do? Or did he find out about that? Or, you know what I mean? And you start with it.
I can appreciate
and then you'll be in an argument.
But it's funny. There's a commercial on. There's a commercial on TV now where it's a couple, male, female, I think you assume, and they're sitting on a bench enjoying a coffee, and he's rambling on and on and on. And she says, "You know what my favorite time is?" And he's like, "What?" She's like when we get together and get a coffee and sit on the bench in silence. And he's like,
I heard that one.
Yeah, right? And I'm like, but for the first time I noticed today, I heard the end of it, because I heard the end of it where they actually cut that last part off, where the silence part, where she just says, where we sit on the bench and enjoy our coffee, and he goes, oh, like right now. And then that was the end. And I said, so my mind is going, I'm like, I wonder if they got complaints about that or whatever, because I was like, and I'm a female, but I was like, yo, she comes off as a little B, you know what I mean? Like a little bitch.
No, but that was written, I know the exact commercial you're talking about. That was written with role reversal satire. It was meant to make you laugh. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was a direct role.
But I'm saying now it's like it would be taken as, oh, she's being and then now it's edited out the very end. Now I know that they do commercials for like longer versions or shorter, but that was like, I mean, like a few seconds. So I said, I should go on social media and search to see if it's been getting backlash or just like, why does she have to say that? You know what I mean? Like if people are going to be negative, and so they had the two versions or they just edited it out, whatever. But it's just funny. It's just like, again, you're saying it's a satire. Like it's supposed to be funny because normally women wouldn't, you know what I mean? But believe it or not, I'm a woman, and yeah, sometimes, especially if I don't know, there are moments where it could just be like, yeah, we could be together and just, yeah, you're chilling, I'm reading a magazine or whatever. But again, yeah, I think I can't argue with your whole thing about always thinking. And I know for me, my mind is just always going. But it's not necessarily like if I see a man silent that I'm thinking something's wrong necessarily. I don't jump to that conclusion. So.
Oh, you know what? Bree said it.
Go ahead.
Bree said it best. Ask.
Ask a question. Yeah.
Ask. Don't assume. Just ask. That is probably one of the best advice a man has ever given a woman. Ask.
Just ask.
Don't assume. Ask me.
And I always say, like, I'm a very verbal person, and I always tell them, if I don't say it, don't think it. Because if something's bugging me, I'm gonna tell you. Straight up. That's my motto. I tell everybody, if I don't say it, don't think it. Well,
I've learned, and from listening, and over time, and then there was a TD Jakes video that I think I saw last year that spoke the same message about just the difference in general between men and women and how we work through our issues. And again, I don't know if this is so, I guess it is. It's a male-female thing, but there's going to be different degrees because we're,
right.
Different types of women, types of men. But in general, they say women, we like to speak and talk through our problems and our issues. And this is why girlfriends can sit on the phone and speak about their relationships with their men, because this is how we understand the situation a little better, or we think it through by speaking about it. Whereas men check out, they'll hear your talk, they'll hear your issue, they'll check out, and then they'll just deal with it in their own mind, their own head, and then maybe come back a day or two later with the solution once they figured it out. But
that's exactly what it is.
Right.
You nailed it right on the head, though, that men are solution oriented, whereas women see the problem, right? And then create a problem because they only see a problem. And then men have to understand that women just want to express themselves and they don't want you to solve their problem. Whereas we're like, all right, you see a problem, we want to fix automatically. And that, because sometimes a woman just wants to express, this is what's happening with my day. Not, oh, this is what happened, this is how you have to solve the solution. And then we get angry at each other because we're not understand person's objective.
Right, but here comes another problem. When a woman complains about the same thing over and over again and never wants to solve it, then that becomes an issue.
All right.
Yeah, that becomes an issue.
Yeah, the argument. It's like, I'll do something about it, but we want to fix.
Yeah. So, another thing in the book, I want to put in the book since you brought it up, is, what happens when a woman uses sex to punish a man. Women, they're a man, right? They try to withhold sex to punish their man, and how that damages the relationship and actually does more harm to them than good. Because when you start withholding sex from a man, you start withholding that connection that he has to you. Right? Yeah. and you start breaking that down, and you break it down long enough, and there's always that one girl that's sitting in, you know, it could be a friend or wherever, sitting there trying to connect with your man. And if he starts feeling that personal connection with somebody else, you know, and you know, then he starts pulling away from you. Even, you know, it does not that he doesn't love you or doesn't care about you. It's just that the connection is breaking down and the bond is being formed somewhere else. So he may not cheat right away, but eventually, you know, at least because he has no connection with you anymore, because you're using sex to punish him or using sex to get what you want. You know,
well, I can say,
I mean,
I've never played that game because, and I think, and I can honestly say that because I've never seen, which some people think I'm crazy, but I've never seen it as just me giving or you're getting something from me. It's been mutual. It's
reciprocal.
Yeah, and so if I want to do it,
right.
Now if I don't want to do it, it's not happening.
Right.
But when, you know, in the right situation, which is usually right, because if I'm with someone and I'm connected with you, I'm attracted to you, and unless, and I just won't be in your presence, you know, I just won't be with you if it's that bad, and so you won't enjoy any of me. So you're not going to enjoy, you know, the good conversations, the laughs, like you know what I mean? If it comes to that. So I don't, I think I see myself as a whole complete package. So it's like, no, you won't, you know, but again, it's not about me punishing you. It's about, I just can't be in your space right now, or I can't express myself.
There's a disconnect totally if I'm not into
right.
it.
And if that happens to me,
but
I'm
it's
not
only limited.
Sorry, go ahead.
KINETIC keeps chipping out. Are you moving around? Your Wi-Fi?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm connected. Like, it's not only limited.
Yeah, Aubrey, it happens like this every show.
Yeah, that's what I must say.
Every show, KINETIC is in and out, in and out,
what it
in and
is,
out.
yeah.
Okay.
Especially when I'm about to give that dope
Okay.
But what it comes down to is it's not only limited to, you know, the withholding of sex. What women don't tend to understand about men is that, you know what, when you keep a space, a roadblock, as I call them, in between us, we get used to that roadblock over a series of time. So every time you put a roadblock and you space us out, we get used to not being with you. That room for somebody else.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know what? It's like, I always tell people.
So I look at it. Don't.
Well, no, but it could be.
You gotta understand something.
That's the thing. It's like
Because that's a funny thing.
It's like if
you see.
No, because that's a funny thing. Let me just say, just before we move on from that, it's a funny thing because it's always about, with a man, if a woman now withdraws or like she kind of starts limiting what the man gets, okay, well, there's always someone else there. But that's never how it's looked at from the woman. You know what I mean? So if a man,
nowadays,
you're being inconsiderate, you're being a little cold, you're closed off. Well, guess what? There are men out there too. So there's someone else. So, but I don't. So it's always.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
But it's acceptable, emotionally unavailable for men. It's not acceptable for a woman to be unemotionally available. That's the difference.
You see,
it's accepted for a man to be unavailable.
If a man can't connect with you physically, a lot of times, not all men, I'm saying if they can't connect with the woman they're with physically, and she keeps pulling and makes them feel not wanted, unwanted, eventually this is men's ego. They start to put up a wall. As you're putting up a wall, they put up a wall so they don't feel hurt.
Right.
Right. And once they put up a wall towards you, it's hard for a lot of times for them to pull down that wall. So then and then of course there's the other females around there. They might not even be actively seeking a female, but you do it long enough and somebody else starts making them feel wanted and making them feel, safe, secure. And they connect with that person on not just a physical bond, but an emotional bond. That's when, that guy who would never cheat starts to say,
trouble,
yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because they start connecting somebody emotionally. So it is better that you work your problem out instead of withholding from your guy. That's what there's an old saying that says, never let the sun go down upon your anger, right? Work it out. Don't let it fester, because it actually does more harm to your end goal.
Definitely. And I think
And don't pick her.
that's a two-way street. And I honestly think that men need to, okay, wired different and all that good stuff. But I think if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to understand your partner's needs as well. And so if that means...
Oh, 100%. 100%.
100%. But, you know, I have a friend that tells me that. She says, doesn't matter how me and my husband argue, I never send him outside of the house horny. Never. She goes, me? I'm going to let another woman come and take my husband? Never. That's what she says to me.
It's funny.
And it's funny. That's all she thinks.
It's funny.
It doesn't matter how, because you know what? She says that, I know we're going to... You know what she says? I'm not planning on leaving him anytime soon. I'm not planning. So even though I'm angry, I know I'm not planning on leaving him. So why am I going to sit him out there horny? So some other woman could come in, you know, and scoop him. She's like, nope.
Drain his balls. And he won't need that to go anywhere else. It doesn't matter.
And, you know, and she's been married and they're happily married, doing big things. You know, it's not always perfect. But that's her mentality. If I'm not planning on leaving him, then why am I going to punish him in that way?
No, it's true. No, and I totally agree. Like timeout and blocks of silence and timeout and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, does that really work? You know what I mean? For relationships, because it's like you're either in it or you're not, kind of thing to me. And but at the same time,
see, there can't be an agenda like that though. There can't be an agenda.
Let me tell you, there are men you can drain them, you can feed them, you can do whatever, and they still, guess what? In a few hours, they're out there with whoever they want to be with. So it's really up to because my thing is, I shouldn't have to.
It doesn't have to be every day.
Thinking about that, and the fear in the back of my mind is, ooh, if he hasn't been pleased in 2 days at home or 3 days, that means he has to go out and find it with someone else. Like, I'm like, if that's the thing, I'm not saying
what we're talking about is not the fact that you haven't had sex with him in 2 days. We're talking about when you break that bond and you guys are arguing and fighting and you pull away and you try to punish him. It's different when you haven't been able to hook up or see, and you guys are still on good terms or whatever.
No. And I'm speaking about that too, because I'm saying if you are that weak, like I shouldn't have to worry about. You're going to run into the arms of another woman, whether it's for comfort or...
But you see, it doesn't happen overnight, though. It doesn't happen overnight, though.
And to me, you
got to remember, we're not talking about it.
And for some men it does. For some men it does happen overnight. Some men are dogs.
We're not talking about... We're not talking about cheaters, okay? We're not talking about chronic cheaters that just are immature, that don't understand relationship. What we're talking about is a man and woman, there's a breakdown in intimacy, mentally, physically, over a course of time that will allow another person or another woman or somebody else to enter that relationship because you've given him that space. That's what we're talking about. There's immature men that are chronic teachers.
I don't believe in giving up on things, but I think if it gets to that, and if you do need that amount of space and that's the result, then that's kind of what is the truth. That's the real. So just go with that, and maybe.
But that determines when you're over.
But it doesn't have to be. Sometimes people are just stubborn and they're not mature enough to realize that, you know what, I don't have to. What am I angry about? If you ask somebody, what are you really mad about?
True.
What are you truly angry about? Sometimes people don't even know. They're mad for so long and they can't even remember what they're angry about.
True.
They're used to being angry.
But I don't think so. You know what? I'm going to tell you guys something from a female point of view. It's like, you know, when first of all, I'm very vocal and I voice my opinion. And so, and even if I don't, instead of me saying, no, I'm good, even if I have to say, figure it out or think about it. If I have to say, okay, think about what just happened in the last 48 hours or whatever, you know what I mean? Or think about what happened, like what you said to me this morning, or, you know what I mean? I will direct you, but at the same time, yeah, if you care, let's let's think about it, unless we're going to have a full-on conversation, and I can be very point blank to say, this is what's bothering me, or this is what I heard.
But that's what we want. To be honest, we don't want to figure it out. Tell us so we can fix it. That's what where women.
But you know
understand.
what you.
Right, exactly.
Where women don't understand men's, like you just said, understanding our needs and wants. Men have to do that. Women have to understand how to deal with their men. 9 times out of 10, even if we know what it is, tell me. Don't bring up one thing and then go every other direction except for bringing up the one because you're mad. You bring up 100 million to that. Let's deal with the situation that made you mad. Was it something I said? Is it how I talked to you? Is it something I didn't do? Let me know directly what it is and give me so I can address
you know what? Sometimes you get tired of that because I've been in situations where it's like, if I have to keep telling you, that's like with my child. If I say, okay, we got a problem here, and if I have to always tell my child what it is, it's like, okay, are you not learning? Are you not understanding what you did, your actions, or what you didn't do? You know what I mean? So sometimes I think as like your partner, as an adult, you want them to understand you and to know what you did wrong. That's like someone saying, well, I'm sorry for,
yeah, but no,
I'm
Karen,
sorry
no,
for whatever I did that bothered you. I don't expect
your expectation. Yeah.
Karen, I can't agree with you on that at all. Because
I don't accept. It's like someone saying sorry if I offended you, or sorry for whatever I did that bothered you. I don't.
But listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you need to let them know, because honestly, some people just don't realize it because it's habitual. They've created this habit for so long, and habits need to be replaced with other habits, right? And sometimes they don't even realize when they're offending you.
Figure out, what's up. What's the problem in our?
No, but because you know what? If you leave a man to be a mind reader, you're gonna lose every time.
Every time.
Every single time. Men are not mind readers, and I don't know when women will figure it out. You know, another girl I dated,
and we don't want to be.
She was telling me, right. I told her like this. I said, tell me what you need me to do to make you feel loved. Because every girl is different. Some girls like you to pull out the chairs and open the car door, and some girls hate it. Some girls want you to pay for every meal, and some girls, right. Some girls hate when you buy them stuff. Some girls, you don't like when you buy them things. Some girls like when you touch them. Some girls want you to wait for them to touch you. Every woman is different. And if you don't tell them what it is that you need from them, you're gonna be sitting there forever. You're gonna create arguments for no reason. I told this girl, I said, listen, if you come arguing with me over something I asked you about that you refuse to tell me, it's gonna get me very upset, and I'm just gonna say it's done. And long and behold, when I got frustrated enough, I was done. Because I don't have time to be a mind reader. I'm so busy in life. Let me know how you need to be treated so I can treat you properly.
Well, then there's the key.
And not only that.
I think that's what women want, is effort from a man. And
that's the level of expectation.
Because I just listened to you. So we want you want effort from a man, and you want someone that cares. You feel cares enough to get to know you and get to know what you like. And that's why when you do something that the woman likes and she's so impressed, like you could see the biggest smile, she's so happy, is because he knows me, he gets me. You know what I mean? Of course there are going to be some, if you do something and I don't like it, that is my opportunity to say, okay, guess what? I don't really like to be talked to like that in public, or I'm not really the public the affection in public, like when things come up. But I saw someone post something online about, maybe if we approach people with how we like to be loved and treated. But guess what? We're also learning who we are, and we're learning, and there might be things that you bring to the table that you might do to me that I'm like, that blows my mind, because I've never experienced it before. You know what I mean? I wasn't taught that this is what, I wasn't shown by a father figure or someone how a man should treat me. So then I meet someone, and he, I know the basics, like don't put your hand on me, don't raise your voice at me, don't if I've told you something I like or dislike and you go against that, that's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? But there might be something that I've never experienced from a man. and you might be the one to bring it. And I'm like, wow, I really love that.
Let
And,
me give you.
so we're learning ourselves as people too. So
let's talk about love. Okay,
I don't have a list to give you.
What you're talking about is love languages, Karen.
Yes, and
Right.
I have that book. I haven't completed 5 love languages.
Yeah, but this is the problem with that, right, Karen? It's this, right? Everybody has a different love languages. When we were kids and teenagers, we had all the time in the world for trial and error. Right now, society, we are so busy with life. You're busy. You're a mom, and you got your show going on. You got work going on. I got several businesses, marketing, this going on, that going on. There's not a lot of time for trial and error. You know, I mean,
and you don't have the tolerance for it.
You don't have the tolerance to be arguing when you didn't have to argue. You're right, 100%, KINETIC.
As you get older, you start knowing what you want, so you start looking for that as opposed to trial and error. As Aubrey said, like, I don't want a woman that bickers. So I just will shut down. If a woman starts bickering, she doesn't even have a shot in hell. She could be the dopest chick in the world. For me, if she's a bickerer, trust me on that, she don't have a shot in hell.
Right, and I think a lot of women live in that that when they were in high school, and guys would keep on trying no matter how they treated them, and how, and they would try this and try that. I don't have time to be arguing. I try something that you don't like because you refuse to tell me what you like, and then you're upset about it. I don't want to go through. I don't have the emotional fortitude right now to deal with all of that, with all that's going on in the world.
Okay, and I'll flip it back to you. As a grown woman, I expect a grown man to have some clue as to what the average grown woman.
You're wrong. See,
no. Let me tell you.
There is no average grown woman.
No, yes, there.
There isn't.
Okay,
every woman is different.
From my point of view, there are the basics that you would approach every woman with. Now, getting to know people, that's not right at all. Yes. Just like if I get with a man, I'm not going to assume that I could love this man the way I love 2 men, like men that I've loved in the past. So getting to know this person, his likes, his dislikes, what makes him happy, what makes him smile, that's a part of the process. And if you don't have time for the process, then you don't have time for a relationship.
No, it's not that I don't have time for the process. I don't have time for arguing.
Like I come and here's the requirements on a piece of paper.
That's not the point, Karen. The thing is, I don't have time to arguing and bickering.
Well, no, and it doesn't always come with an argument.
Yeah,
and if that's a personality thing, and like you said, bye. I don't have time. I don't connect well. Argue. I get that.
Okay, we're not saying, Care. We're not saying that guys shouldn't put effort in and guys shouldn't try. I'm just saying that if you don't let a guy know what you want, if you're not getting what you want, because everybody, okay, for instance, one girl I dated loved poetry and loved getting flowers and loved, getting gifts and stuff. And another girl hated it, despised it, and thought it was soft and weak. One girl I dated liked for me to ask them what is wrong and make sure they were okay. Another girl wanted me to leave her alone and let her figure it out, then come and tell me later. And that, a real man shouldn't care. Should just tell. She said a real man should just left her alone until she's ready to talk and not make sure she's okay. And then, because that's what she's used to, the ruffians. You see, there is no average woman. Every woman is unique and every woman is different. I just can't deal with the bickering argument. So if you're not willing to let me know what you need, then you need to be patient enough to wait for me until I figure it out and not argue with me. Because the minute you start arguing and bickering, I'm out.
Well, I don't argue with people. Honestly, I don't argue. If it's why am I hearing? Okay, guys, I can't hear myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know what I think?
You're breaking up, KINETIC again. KINETIC, you're chipping out.
I'm saying is what is happening. Oh, there's a background echo. I don't know when NEDDY came back.
You. No, he's on.
He just went on mute. Now it's better.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I think what has happened is that when people, the two things that what people have to do is, I'm getting it. Sorry.
Are you on your phone or your computer, KINETIC?
No, I'm on my tab.
On your tablet, eh?
Yeah, but no, this has never happened before.
Mm.
There's like a 2-second delay.
See, I hear Care okay, and I think you guys hear me okay, but you and NEDDY, every now and then, you guys keep tripping out.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
There's just a, I don't know, NEDDY came on and delay on my stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Cool.
But what I'm trying to say is that people, I've said this before, people need to take out ego out of emotion and ego out of love. If we do that as a people, 9 times out of 10, what happens is we eliminate 95% of the problems that we have. You guys follow me?
No, I don't know how you could take.
You gotta remember, feelings
out of love.
Feelings
and even
emotions are interchangeable but different. Right?
Yep. Right? Emotions aren't always truth. The way you feel is
exactly.
The way you feel doesn't mean, because you feel I don't care doesn't mean I don't care. Because you feel like, you know, like I'm not making time for you doesn't mean that that's necessarily the way it is. Maybe if you ask what's really going on, you know, or to, you know, you'd figure it out. Like just the way you feel. Sometimes people, the way you feel, and I always tell myself, the way I feel may not be the way it is. So let me find out what it is.
But you see, emotions tell you how you're reacting, how you react to it. Feeling what you are actually feeling. So if you take out emotions out of it, your emotional reaction, then what happens is you take out emotion, take out ego. Then what happens is that you are left with purely what you're feeling, and you can communicate that.
Yeah. Yep. You there, Kara?
I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out the problem. I think it's on.
On my end? No.
Yourself for a second. Yeah, I think there's feedback coming from you, Aubrey. But I get what you're saying. But you know what? We're human. We do have emotions. We do have an ego. And I think it's just, I mean, communication is key in every relationship. I don't know how many times me and my sister talk about that, referring to just family dynamic, relationships, and everything stems back to the communication. And it has to go both ways. You have to be willing to receive and listen and understand somebody and where they're coming from, and try to really understand and be able to express yourself at the same time. But I think there's a degree of like you have to also understand that maybe someone doesn't communicate exactly like you guys, and
like you.
The way you're saying, just tell me, it's almost like, well, maybe I'm showing you by my reaction. So if I'm upset by something, that's my way of telling you I don't like that. So I shouldn't have to now verbalize it any other way. You should be able to.
But that's your assumption.
No, that's wrong. You should always verbalize it.
No.
Your assumption.
Yes.
You can't put that.
You should always verbalize it.
Yeah, he's right. You can't put that expectation on me to expect to understand the way you think and be a mind reader. If it's not verbalized, not communicated directly, addressed on the problem, then don't expect me to react. Because what happens is your ego gets put in place, and then you get upset because we didn't react the way you wanted it to happen.
But it's not that. I mean, okay, listen, we're talking about adults here, okay? And so I'm not like the average, and yeah, you could say there's no average, and I'm using that word loosely. But the average person, I don't like. I mean, I can't speak for every person, but the average person will be as able at some point to say, I don't like that, or I do like that. I think
But
someone
what
who
is
really
that?
sits there, no, no,
That's
no.
what
I
we're
think
looking for.
someone
That's
who
the
sits
root.
there
What is
as
that?
no, let me finish. I don't interact with females that are mute, that sit there and that are emotionally and verbally mute, like they can't express. Nah, I'm not feeling that. I don't like that. So if there's a woman out there that sits there really and never gives a man a clue, there's something wrong with her. And I'm not expecting any average man, I'm just quote unquote, to deal with that. I think that would frustrate the shit out of anybody. Like really and truly. So that's not a normal kind of girl. But I think for the majority of people out there, there isn't a problem with expressing it. Now, if someone's constantly expressing disappointment and it's like, okay, what are your
It's time
expectations?
to go.
Yeah, like, okay, you are just a hard to, and maybe you need another man that can deal with you on another level, and that is not me. Peace. And that's part of the process sometimes, is realizing that we're not made for each other. So it's not about do more, do more. It's like, you know what? That's how I express myself. This is how I express, and it doesn't work. So bye. And I think that's how we torture ourselves, is by expecting people to meet us somewhere and make something work that's not working. Sometimes it just can't work, and it's not supposed to work. And it can happen when you're 20, 40, 60. You can meet somebody and you could be physically attracted, and then the initial meetings are great. But then when you start really getting down to the nitty gritty and you're really getting the person and you're understanding the little things, their mannerisms, the little things that bug you that are not going to change, then you're like, okay, I don't think this is going to work. And, I have a friend, I don't really like to talk my friend's business, but, she was in a really, committed relation with someone and like really likes him, would love it to work. But she tried, and she realized, and then she was able to tell him, like, seriously, I like you as a person, but it's just really not going to work as in a relationship. And these are the women I'm used to being around. So like when I hear women can't express or tell you any, like something's wrong with them. I'm sorry, they're not normal. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And if I was with a man that constantly complained and wanted me to figure out, I'd be like, yeah, I don't really have time for that either. Or on the flip side, if everything I did was wrong, then okay, I am not the one for you. And I accept that. Peace. Like that's just it. To me, it's that simple. Especially the older we get, you know what I mean? When you're young, you try. But yeah, the older you get, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. And that's just me. So I can't relate to these mute chicks that you're referring to. I just can't.
You know what? Now to segue back to your original question that sparked this whole conversation.
Yeah.
You know what? my pet peeve, or the one that sets me off the most, is that black men are not fathers to their children.
Mm-hmm.
That one irks me to no end. It may have been true at one point, but I believe that my generation and this generation have changed that. Because it's just one of those things where everybody just believes that, hey, we make these child and we run off, and and we have these broken homes and families, when the system actually creates these situations on behalf of, or not on behalf of, against us. And but we are more so doing, being fathers to our children, and and that is like prevalent now in our lives, regardless of our financial situations or our relationship situations, that we are active fathers in our children's life. But the stereotype is still perpetuated by Planned Parenthood and those agendas.
Yeah.
Sorry?
And I said big time. I mean, I used to work in a small office, and and there was this one older white man that would say, like, what is it with your men? Like, they don't stick around. They don't whatever. And I said, you'd be surprised. There are a lot that do. You know what I mean? I don't know the ones you're exposed to or what we see, and we see things on TV and everything. And yeah, I'm not saying that they aren't, but there are so many. And then I even refer back to, just Jamaica, because that's where I am. And I said, I see so many Jamaican men that are active in like getting their children ready for school, taking them to school. You see men out with their children a lot when the mother's at home or wherever. And so I said, you know, it's not a Jamaican thing. It's not a Black man thing. And I know there are other, and I honestly said, yeah, there, of course you're going to find some, but then this is a man talking to me who was a single dad. You know what I mean? And so, and I flipped it back on him. I said, you know, from your personal experience, not all relationships work out, right? And I kind of threw him off there, but it was the reverse. He had his children. He used to raise his children, and until they were old enough to go off to school. So there we go. You know what I mean? And do we have this?
Here's the thing that a lot of people tend to forget, though, is that, you know what, and I always, when we get into these very heavy topics, I always try to remind people that, hey, you know what, slavery has only been done about 95 years now, right? So in terms of what the true essence of saying, it hasn't even really ended. It's been redirected. Now it's the prison system.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just been repackaged. And now it's not about a color thing. It's about, you know, the money line. But
right. Yep.
The traditional thought of slavery has only been done about 95 years, right? Since the whole Jim Crow movement, the whole, you know, thing. So what has happened is that, members in slavery, they separated the man from, and I'm not using this as any excuse by any means, but it was a design, right? The whole idea of that, they separated the Black family and they studied out males to interact for the gene pool to males and slaves, you know, and so they can work. And then what's happened is that they pit them like bulls. So, you know, a good docile, strong Black slave would be brought over to another plantation or whatever it may be, and then they were I guess used as bulls to create these babies, but they're given sex as rewards with other females. And then what happened is, you know what, they family and then take their children and separate from their mothers. Now the welfare state has created that. Now we're saying there's been an agenda that's always been perpetuated, whereas we all know that, you know what, if it comes down to a Black white man getting a job 9 times out of 10, and then a half times out of 10, the white man's going to get the job if they have the same qualifications, because we're looked at, again, by Planned Parenthood and the ideology that are less than them. We're not as smart as them. So what happens is that exactly that. The Black man doesn't get the job. He can't provide for his family. And then the welfare state, you know, if she's staying home, she can't work if she has a child. So and I'm giving you a very raw, a loose explanation, not an excuse, but basically what happens is, if a man's in the household, what happens is she can't get welfare. But if he's not working, he can't provide for his family, which creates a natural, I guess, separation between man and woman, because she starts looking at him as a child. If he can't find a job and he can't provide for his family, eventually what happens is he feels, you know, less of a man. He gets emasculated, then he separates from that family because it's created by the system. Right. So when he leaves, then what happens is that, you know what, she is now considered a single parent, because, you know what, she's arguing with him, he's arguing with her, he feels less of a man, she's gone, and then he disappears out of guilt and ego and, you know, and lack of self-esteem. And again, this is just a generalized, raw explanation about what has happened. But that is now changing. Yeah. Right? In terms of, you know, the system has created this whole thing, and then they perpetuate that stereotype in the media themselves as well. Yeah. And it's become acceptable. But now, I'd say my generation, I'll say it, I'm 46, and less than that, we have now started changing that ideology. We're now educated. We're more intelligent. We're, you know, we still have the same roadblocks, but what has happened is that because we have this understanding about, you know, how the system works, and we've trained ourselves, and, you know, and we understand this, we are now changing that stereotype or that acceptability, and we're taking accountability for a family. Okay, me and you can't get along. I'll be damned that I'm not going to be there for my child.
Right.
So that is totally changed, but yet the stereotype is still perpetuated by the media.
See, a lot of people, a lot of men, I heard from a lot of guys why they stopped dealing, didn't see their kids. A lot of their baby mothers use the kids as a tool against them to control them. And they said, if you don't give me this, you're not seeing your child today. If you don't give me that, if you don't do this, you're not seeing your child.
That still happens.
Right. And what ends up happening is the guys get so angry. They say, you know what? When my child's old enough, my child will come look for me, because if I deal with this woman, I'm going to go to jail.
Right.
That I've heard it several times, you know, from guys. Sometimes the women make it very hard for men to be fathers to their kids when they're not together. You know, I've dealt with girls who are like, oh, you know, where I've been a father figure in their kids' lives for years, and the minute her and I break up, oh, well, you're not seeing my kid anymore. And you know, and that kid will get over it. You know what I mean? And that's what they do. You know, it's unfortunate. There are the guys who walk away and are deadbeat, leave kids around. But I mean, a lot of times guys do want to be in their kids' lives, but sometimes the women make it very difficult.
Yeah, quite a bit of times.
Yes, I understand. Yep. So it definitely is.
They don't make it difficult at all, and still don't.
No, you're right, but you know what? It goes there. There's a lot of deadbeat white guys out there too, and a lot of deadbeat Indian guys and Spanish guys. It's just another stereotype.
You can look at some lists online.
Yeah,
the majority are not black.
But you know what it is? They've put so many of our black men in jail for misdemeanors that white guys get slapped on the wrist for, that they're not at home to be. They're too busy being in jail for, you know, little minor crimes. You know, like, honestly, to me, more white people and other people smoke weed than black people do. But black people are the ones that are always going to jail for a dime, or, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
No, you're right.
And that's, you know what I mean?
That's light. That's I mean, in a way, stereotyping.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of reasons for it.
Who's echoing?
Aubrey. I've been telling you. I've been trying to find out if there's a device or something in the background. But and you, Nettie, you didn't say. I know that was KINETIC's biggest pet peeve, or, you know, what he found is such a big misconception when it comes to black men.
Sorry, I missed out on a good piece of the conversation.
No, it was just, you know, what do you like I had said, you know, the image of this mad black woman, and I don't know, like, what do you find is a misconception or misunderstood about men and black men specifically?
Yeah, I think the deadbeat father thing that you guys were touching on is probably a major one, because, you know, I'm kind of in that situation as well, where not to really put my business out there, but my baby mother is trying to paint that picture to my daughter too. And I always, you know, have to make sure that I'm there, and I explain to her, you know, it's not everything how the mother shows it as, or whatever. You know, I take her out, I do stuff for her, but it's just kind of funny, because a lot of times with women having, you know, full custody of their child and stuff like that, they can, you know, train the child and say, oh, your dad this and your dad that, and keep, you know, putting stuff in the child's head regardless. But it's not the case, right? So I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. Well, for me, that is.
Yeah. Well, Aubrey, I know he's when he speaks by himself, it's all good. So hopefully the book that you're working on. When you come back, you can actually tell us more about that, when you expect to have that out, and hopefully it'll include some of these issues, maybe not the one I spoke about, since it's a female thing. But yeah, so tell us more about when you expect to have it out.
I have a lot of the material already. It's just to sit down and put it together and edit it. You know, as I said, I have a marketing company. I'm a travel agent. I got a lot of things going on. So I'm going to try to put it out within the next 6 months. I'm going to give, if it comes out sooner, it comes out sooner, but I'm going to aim for 6 months. I do have the material. I just got to put it together. So
you have the material. You just got to show it.
Yeah, I just got to, honestly, I have it. I just need to take it from different computer disks and all that stuff and organize it and put it together, and then interview a couple more guys, and it'll be there.
Okay, well, hopefully we can KINETIC and NEDDY in that book.
You need a testimony. I'll add to it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've all kind of, KINETIC's had his own situations. I mean, we've all had situations, man. If, you know, there's some issues that I want to touch on and see if some guys will talk. I want to even touch on molestation in families and stuff like that.
Wow.
You know, a lot of guys have been molested and they're afraid and would never talk about it. And that's why they act the way they act, and the pains and, you know, and stuff. So there's a lot of things. You know, one guy I know, you know, he struggled with homosexuality because he was raped at a young age. He ended up in a group home, and he was raped by one of the guys in a group home, and struggled with homosexuality for the rest of his life. You know, because he wasn't getting along with his parents. So there's a number of things that go on in the community.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that was deep, right?
So we can expect that
we're looking at
six more books coming out, and you have one more addressing male.
I'm going to aim to put out the third book, I Remember Me, by November. That's out of the Fly Little Blackbird series. And I'm going to aim to have by May, I'd say, for the adult book.
So we can. I'll just add that you went to buy that book. You know, we all need you all to go out there and support these two books. Bree, you may want to tell them how to get it again.
Right. So if you just follow my website all the time, AubreyClarke.com, the information is all on there where you can get the books. So it's AubreyClarke.com.
Nice. And how much are the books, and how long is delivery? You know, give us all the
I'd say the best way to get it is if you're ordering it offline, it's from Amazon, and all the details are on Amazon. Because Amazon likes to do sales, so they'll fluctuate the price between $12 and $14 sometimes. Because Amazon, you know, they do their own little sales because they take the majority of the commission. You know how it goes.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Aubrey, for joining us again. The other website.
Thank you for having me.
FlyLittleBlackbird.com.
Yep, FlyLittleBlackbird. AubreyClarke.com goes to FlyLittleBlackbird.com as well. So if you remember my name, you'll remember my website.
And that's Clarke with an E. And can you tell people how to find you on social media?
Yeah, on Instagram. Here I can't even pronounce this properly. Instagram, I'm Bree Clarke, which is BRECLARKE. I'm also the same thing on Facebook. I may accept you, I may not, but on Instagram you can follow me for free. On Instagram you can follow me for free. I do have an Aubrey Clarke Facebook page as well too, and a Fly Little Blackbird Fly Facebook page. But the best way to get me is on Instagram. You can even DM me there.
Okay, cool.
You know what this echo sounds like?
You should be like me. But if you're again,
here.
Say it again.
You know, echo's gone. I said, you know what the echo sounds like? An old Stone Love cassette. Dance hall, the dance hall set, the echoing on there.
It's true.
It was wonderful speaking to you guys. I gotta go and do some proposals now.
You're gonna propose to a girl tonight?
No, radio proposals, advertising, marketing stuff. Did that once. I'm not sure if I'll do it again anytime soon. Sorry, KINETIC, go ahead.
So is there anything coming up that that's coming up that you would like to promote, like your Uber cruise or
Oh yes, that's right. We have the Uber Soca cruise coming up, going from Miami to Cozumel. That's one of my clients. And they have over 60 of the world's best soca artists and DJs on the cruise. There is no VIP area, so you get to party with all of the celebrities and eat with them, enjoy the time. It is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. I went last year. We went to Jamaica. So if you go to ubersocacruise.com, which is UBERSOCA cruise.com, all the information will be there. And if you use the promo code BRE, which is Bree, you'll get a $50 onboard credit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thanks again for joining, and we have you back in the new year.
All right, it was fun.
Yeah.
Take care, yeah.
Okay, take care. Have a good night.
Peace.
Alrighty. Well,
just the three of us.
Just the three of us. But I don't know. Yeah, we missed last week's technical issues. It's just been crazy, but glad we could all connect again.
So what's been going on? What's been going on for the last 2 weeks?
Summer's winding down. Wow.
Hello?
Wow.
That's it. Do we have summer?
I know. You know what? It's funny. I don't know. I hear that all the time, but I'm like, I thought we had a nice summer. I think there was a bit of rain in the beginning, but it didn't really rain on me too much, so I didn't really mind. I didn't have anything that it ruined. So
the reason why I say it was a good summer is because somewhere around March.
In money.
No, yeah, money too, yes, because of photography. No, but weather-wise, this year I caught the green thumb, and it's been a miraculous summer for gardening. Like I never had to take out my hose and water the grass. Like we've got a good amount of rain. The grass has been growing very beautifully. I did a nice little garden at the front around my tree. It's been like, no dry spots and stuff like that. So it was like perfect for anybody who's into gardening and stuff like that, and growing vegetables and stuff like that. It was a perfect summer for that.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. But if you're a party person, then maybe not so much. And a good amount of my weddings did get rained out, so but that doesn't matter because I still get paid.
You're so wrong. Well, hey. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, there's another blast of heat coming.
Sorry?
A blast, like another hit. We're gonna get hit with some heat.
Yeah.
You know what they call that, KINETIC?
Indian summer?
Hey, you're not supposed to say that. I drew you into that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
define, what do they call it now?
That's what's
I don't know. It's just it's
native.
You know what?
Summer? I don't know.
Native. Yeah. It's actually still summer, people. We haven't even reached fall yet, so it's just like, and the whole idea of school dictating that summer's over. It's like, yeah, summer break is done, but summer's not done, people. So
listen, for me, when Carolina's done, that's the end, and my birthday is the end of summer. I don't even wait for the X anymore. When my birthday is done, summer is officially over.
That's it. Well, it's going to be a hot one this weekend, so it'll feel like summer, and it is still officially summer. So everybody, and that's in Toronto. I'm sure that'll extend down to a little further south as well. I don't know how much further south, but the other thing we have to mention, just, you know, for anybody that may be listening in any of the areas, regions that were hit by any of these storms recently, you know, I know I've had people and places in my prayers because I have some people scattered around, especially in the recent one with Florida, down in the Caribbean, and just we'll probably touch on something to do with this if there's any way, and post things about how people can help and things like that still. I know you've been posting some things, KINETIC, especially about, how do you say it, say it to me.
Bermuda, yeah, Barbados, yeah, they got devastated, and you know, Antigua just got skirted, but you know, you know.
But I saw you post something about, you know, people in Antigua being able to host families and things like that.
Right, yeah.
So quite sad. I know.
Very small. They had under 2,000 people, but that's still 2,000 people displaced with no homes. It's inhabitable, right?
Yeah.
If you see the picture, like if you go online and look at the pictures or look at what's happening, you'd be like, you know, it's like,
place is level.
Wow,
like nothing. Yeah. Well, that's what it seemed like. The images I saw.
You know, basically what happened to, it's like 20 times what happened to Haiti.
Right. Right.
Hurricane, I mean, with the earthquake, right? Or
earthquake.
You know, yeah. But now this one is like they've literally got flattened. It's like rubble.
Yep. Yeah.
Inhabitable. Like, you know, you can't even drive your car. Nothing, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, even in the Florida
to me
right now, when you see some of these buildings, like the roofs are off and the side of the places, all you see is like boxes, like half.
I might actually be going down there.
Really?
Why? To do telecommunications, phone and cable work.
Wow.
I remember when they had the hurricane in 2006, I went for 4 months. So I got called again. So they need workers on there. So I might go down.
He's down in Florida, right?
I might go down to Florida and maybe touch Texas, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
Who knows? I'll tell you if I've gone.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we're going to wrap for the night. If you missed the show or missed portions of the show, don't worry. It is available as a podcast. As of tomorrow, it'll be up. So check your favorite podcast player for anybody who's just tuning in or seeing this on. And yeah, it is also available on YouTube. Some of the podcast players, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud also has it, and yeah, vexradio.com. There's all the shows listed there as well as the best in hip hop and R&B. If you want to send a shout out or a request on Vex Radio, the phone number is 1-877-469-3016. Use option 1 to send your on-air shout out that will be played in between songs, and option 2 to request your favorite song. Again, the number 1-877-469-3016. VexRadio.com for the latest in hot topics and news as well. It's the perfect website. So follow Mr. NEDDY NYCE. I KINETIC 100, even though he's gone. Nice. How do people follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at 2NYCE Photography, the number 2, NYCE Photography. And then my website is 2NYCEphotography.com. And yeah, Facebook is NEDDY NYCE, NEDDY NYCE. I'm not like Aubrey. Anybody can come in and check my page.
Like you can follow me on Instagram for free. I was like, will you charge people on Facebook?
I know.
Made that mistake. And of course, with me, it's Cake with Care C, all one word, on Twitter and Instagram. They're the only 2 places you can really follow me. So check it there. And we're here, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. live. If I'm able, we'll be back next Tuesday.
If you're able.
And we'll get into what Aubrey touched on tonight. We'll get into that next week or the week after. We'll see. But the big, I'll share.
You'll share.
Yeah, I'll share. Thanks again, NEDDY. Thank you.
No
not
problem.
for the show. You know what I'm thanking you for. So.
Yes, yes. See, I keep it private. See,
my beautiful gift. I don't care. I'm putting it out there. My beautiful gift and taking the time and making the effort, which is more precious, even more precious to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, hopefully you'll make some time for cake next Tuesday when we're back live. Hopefully. Okay.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right, cool.